recording this particular session. So we just want to make sure that your privacy is maintained. Also, you will see that there is a chat function available. We have disabled the chat function rather for the presentation itself, but we will join you back after the presentation, turn the chat on, and have a question and answer period where Robin and I will answer any remaining questions that you might have. We do feel that probably many of the questions that you have right now will be addressed and answered in the presentation, but other questions could certainly arise. So make note of those and then just pop them into the chat at the end of the presentation. Although Robin and I are joining you from home today, we certainly did want to recognize that the University of Manitoba campuses are located on the original lands of the Anishinaabe, the Cree, the Oji Cree, and the Dene people. It is also the homeland to the Métis Nation. As I said earlier, you've joined Get Ready to Register. Robin and I are going to walk you through how you can choose your courses for your first year. We normally work in an office called the First Year Center located on campus. And it really is, for those of you that don't know, the only office on campus dedicated exclusively to supporting first year students. Regardless of which program you begin your studies with, we certainly are your first point of contact as early as now, as you are beginning to choose your courses, all the way through to the end of your first year. We really do recognize in our work with first year students that there is going to be a pretty significant transition that you're going to experience from high school level studies through to university level studies. So we put together a team of advisors to really support that transition. We have registration advisors on hand who will be able to work with you in the event that you encounter any technical difficulties when it comes time to registering for courses. And then we have a team of academic advisors, people like myself and Robin, who are able to work with you throughout your first year. I often sort of reference our role to one that you might be familiar with in your high school. We're very much like, say, a guidance counselor or a resource teacher that you might have worked with in your high school. Often you work with them in advance of your academic year to make sure that you're choosing the courses that are going to keep the path open or the door open that you'd like to pursue after high school. And in addition to that, throughout your year, anytime you have any questions, concerns, they really are your first point of contact. And that very much is what an academic advisor on campus will do for you. We support you in your first year throughout your studies. And again, in recognition of that change that you're going to experience from high school to university level studies, we also offer a wide variety of academic success workshops where we really work with you to help you build the new skills and tools that you're going to need to really manage this new learning environment. We do find when we begin to work with students who are at the stage you're at right now, you're all excited and really keen to start diving in and choosing your first year courses, that there are a couple of steps that we want to ensure do not get overlooked and really must be done in advance of any course planning. And that's what this slide here really is breaking down for you. First and foremost, we want to ensure that you have accepted your offer of admission. That is a critical step. You want to make sure that when you do read your offer of admission, so that letter that you've received, that you do at the very bottom ensure that you click that accept button. It isn't until you have formally accepted your offer of admission that you then become formally a University of Manitoba student. Some of you may still be waiting on a decision regarding your admission. Not to worry, continue to check your email address that you applied to the university with, and any notification regarding the decision will be sent to that email, and then you will be directed to go back to your application portal where hopefully you will see a letter of admission. Any questions that you might have along the way regarding your admission really must be addressed with our admissions office. I've included their email address here. Robin will certainly pop this in the chat as well. They're at admissions@umanitoba.ca. Robin and I are certainly well-versed in being able to walk you through the process of planning for your first year, but accepting that offer and addressing any specific admission questions really must be done by the experts at our admission office. Once you have accepted that offer of admission, then you're ready to do step number 2, which is claiming your UMNet ID. For those of you that don't know, you are the UMNet ID really here on campus is the way in which you access all of our online systems. First and foremost, it allows you to activate your dedicated university email account. Myself, Robin, your professors, anyone on campus is only able to communicate with you via your university email account. And conversely, you are also only able to communicate with us via this university account. So we really want to make sure that you do go and claim your UMNet ID. At this point in the presentation, I am actually going to turn my audio off. Looks like I'm having a little bit of an issue with my internet connection, so this may help to alleviate any choppiness. And I'll join you back again at the end with Robin with my video on. The other component that is important to and is linked to claiming your UMNet ID is to gain access to our online learning management system. We call that UMLearn. You may be using something similar right now in high school to view lectures that your teachers are posting, maybe where you gain access to assignments, where you upload assignments, where you receive grades back. This is how UMLearn functions for you here as a University of Manitoba student. So claiming your UMNet ID will also give you access to UMLearn. Once those two steps have been completed, then you really are able to provide your undivided attention to start looking at planning for your first year. And we know that that planning begins and ends with the support of something called the First Year Planning Guide. Each year, myself, Robin, and our team of advisors put together the planning guide. And when we do dive into that guide further into the presentation, what you will find is that planning for your first year really is a process. And that process follows certain steps. And like any process, you require information to complete that process and often time to do it well. And this is what this graphic here really is trying to illustrate. First and foremost, as I indicated earlier, accepting your offer admission is what you must do first. There really isn't anything that you can begin to do until you have accepted that offer. Once that offer has been accepted, then you're able to move on to step 2, which is to begin to select and view all of the different degree programs that are available to you as a University of Manitoba student. Once you have identified your target area, keeping in mind we do recognize that we have lots of different kinds of students that come to us in their first year. Some certainly have a very clear vision of where they want to go or what they want to study, but many, and in fact almost half of the students that join us in their first year very much are still exploring or may very well be undecided. And that's okay. These steps that you follow to get you to registration day are identical, regardless of the kind of student you are at the moment. Once you have identified those areas of interest, then you're able really to start taking a look at which specific courses will I be choosing. Once those courses have been chosen, then you're able to create a customized timetable and then finally register for your classes. We do find that a lot of students are, quite anxious about getting to this last step quite quickly, and we really need to reinforce that this process is one that really requires a lot of time, and that's what these middle 3 steps are really reinforcing. A lot of decision making happens in here, and like any good decision making, you need information. And you have to do it thoughtfully. And so that's really what these Get Ready to Register sessions are going to try and provide for you, is that critical information to be able to successfully complete each and every one of these steps. I often liken your planning for your first year similar to planning for your final exam. Hopefully you don't arrive on exam day without having done any preparation, especially if you want to be successful in that exam. Same thing really is the case with registration day. Hopefully you don't arrive on registration day without putting together a well thought out plan. Registration day with a good plan is a very easy and really not very time-consuming process. But there are quite a few steps in between. So for the purposes of this presentation today, I will be walking you through and supporting you to show you how you complete steps number 2 and 3. Next week, beginning Monday, I will be also offering sessions related to creating your timetable, and then ultimately walking you through how you register for your classes. So as I said earlier, your first year planning really begins and ends in something called the First Year Planning Guide. We in the First Year Center work each year with every faculty and program on campus, as well as the admissions office, to ensure that you have all the information that you need to plan for your first year. I promise you that there is nowhere else that you need to go to gain information as of today, all the way through to your registration day. Each and every step along that process that we talked about is covered off in the guide. I am able to access the guide in a couple of ways. It does live at umanitoba.ca/first year. So if I click on this link, it's going to take me directly to the dedicated first year planning webpage. If I forget this URL, certainly I can go and visit the general University of Manitoba website at umanitoba.ca, use the search bar and just pop in first year planning guide, and it will take you here. Not only is the first year planning page home to the guide, it's also home to registration for all of our upcoming sessions next week related to creating your timetable and registration. So I certainly do encourage everyone who has not already, go in and register for one of those sessions next week. It is also home to some information that you may find of interest for you, certainly as a student also planning for their first year. But for the purposes of this session today, we're using this page as the gateway to access the guide. We have designed and offered the guide in two platforms, one as a PDF and the other as an online flippable book. If I click on the icon, it then takes me to the online and interactive first year planning guide. It's, as I said, interactive. It's a really easy tool to use. You'll see there's a toolbar here at the bottom to help you navigate nicely back and forth throughout the guide. And I'll just use the right-hand arrow here, and we're going to dive in and start taking a look at what the guide contains. You will see first page, again, reinforcing that there are specific steps to follow as you make your way to registration day, and that we've laid out and designed the guide here in the table of contents to really provide you with all of the information that you need to successfully plan for and execute each and every one of these steps. The first section of the guide is a first year planning section. I'll walk you through those pieces to really give you some basic information about how our courses and year is laid out. It's really the building blocks or the foundation to the next section, which is where you will begin to start taking a look at which courses you take in your first year. If we zoom to the bottom of the table of contents, we also link you to a recommended introductory courses list, which provides you details to probably 200 plus courses you have access to as a first year student. I'll spend quite a bit of time there later on in the presentation. We've then also addressed upgrading courses. You may find as a student in the presentation today, you have seen a program where there may be a certain high school or 40S course that you may have required in order to complete some coursework as part of that program. Not to worry if you didn't do that in high school. We certainly provide you with information here on how you still could upgrade that coursework. Last but not least, we do have an important dates page. You do need to know that as a university student, you are responsible for knowing and understanding all important dates. So know that the guide really is a quick reference point to that as well. And again, really contains all of the information that you need between now and your registration day. So if I start flipping through the guide, again, you'll see the right-hand arrow flows me through. I'll walk you through how to use the guide today, but we do have a reference page just to refer back to in the event that you have some questions. You know, I can't stress enough that when you use this guide, you really need to think about it like your textbook for your first year. Think back to that analogy to planning for your first year as much like planning for a final exam. You don't want to flip through the guide like a magazine in a really passive way. This is very much an active process. The information that you need here is likely quite new to you. You may need to reread sections over, you may need to take notes, and that's totally normal. This process is certainly going to take you time, but I promise you everything that you need to know is definitely contained within the guide. We do know that as you go through the guide, you might come across some terms or vocabulary that's unfamiliar to you. We've provided a reference page here for some common terms that you're going to encounter in the guide. Two terms that I do want to draw your attention to right now are at the bottom of this page, something called the mathematics requirement and the written requirement. Here at the University of Manitoba, all students at some point along the way of completing their degree will be required to take one 3-credit-hour math course and one 3-credit-hour course that has a significant content in writing. Where a lot of first-year students have some confusion is related to when these courses must be done. Many students believe that it is mandatory to do these courses in your first year, and that is absolutely not true. Whether or not you need to do a high-content mathematics course or a high-content writing course in your first year will very much be dependent upon your program or programs of choice. Many programs, some rather may ask you to do these courses in advance of admission. Some have already included these courses as part of the degree. So really knowing what the specific requirements of your target area are will be, critical in identifying whether or not these do need to be courses included in your first year. As we move through the presentation, I certainly will be highlighting some programs. So we'll be able to talk about this with more context. As we begin to move closer to the which courses do I take in my first year section, you will see we have a course planning basics page. It's important to understand some basic information about the courses you're going to be taking this year. Here at the U of M, we do offer courses in 2 different terms, both a fall and winter term, which make up what we refer to as our regular academic session or a regular academic year. It runs from September through to April. And our courses have a credit hour value. Usually those course values are 3 or 6 credit hours. A 3-credit-hour course takes place over 1 term only, whereas a 6-credit-hour course spans both the fall and the winter term. We refer to this as a spanned course. It would begin in the fall term, which begins in September, and ends at the end of the winter term in April. Upon completion of a spanned course, you would earn 6 credit hours in coursework. You have the ability to take a maximum of 5 courses in both the fall and the winter term. So if I were to do 5 courses in the fall at 3 credit hours each, I would be able to take a maximum of 15 credit hours of coursework in the fall, 15 credit hours of coursework in the winter, which would bring me to a total of 30 total credit hours. That would be what we would consider a maximum course load. Do you need to take a maximum course load in your first year? Absolutely not. How will you determine what is the best course load for you? Many of those decisions are going to be personal in nature. We've certainly provided you some guidance here on the Determine Your Course Load page. Some things to consider will be related to admission to your program of choice. Many programs on campus do require that you take a minimum number of credit hours or a minimum course load. Often that is at least 24 credit hours. So that would be 4 courses in the fall, 4 courses in the winter. Some certainly will ask you to do a full course load, but again, your specific program or programs of choice will detail that, and I'll review that further on into the presentation. You may also be a student who is coming to school on a scholarship. The U of M may have also offered you a scholarship. Some of you may also be asking outside agencies for funding. If that is a category that you fall into, then you certainly want to pay special attention to the course load requirement that any funding may be asking you to fulfill. Probably of most importance, and one of the considerations that honestly only you can answer, is really related to the commitments you have in addition to school. We know that many students continue to work part-time throughout school. Some of you may have high extracurricular involvement. Some may be student athletes. Others may have other kinds of outside commitments, possibly family-related commitments. If that is the case, then you certainly want to be honest and reasonable with yourself when you think about how much time you need to give to your commitments outside of school and how much time school is also going to ask of you to successfully complete these courses. It is important to note that a student who takes a minimum of 3 courses per term, so that would be 18 credit hours completed in a regular academic session, would be considered minimally a full-time student. So whether you do 3, 4, or 5 courses per term, you would still be considered a full-time student. Next up in the first year planning section of the guide are two sections that I'm not going to spend on time today because I'm going to be spending time on them next week during the timetabling and registration sections, but we do address how to create your timetable and ultimately how to register for your classes in the guide as well. So really reinforcing that the guide does provide you with all of the information that you need to successfully complete and get to your day of registration. For our first year students, registration does happen mid-July, so it begins July 14th. So you have several weeks between now and then to really put together your thoughtful plan and to really start diving into this next section, which is probably top of mind for many of you today, and that's the big question of which courses do I take in my first year? When you come to this section of the guide, you'll see you are presented with an index page. Each and every faculty, as well as program, contains a dedicated program planning page within the guide. And these program planning pages will provide you with information regarding which courses to choose in your first year, what are the specific admission requirements of that program, what about the written and math requirements, and high school prerequisites. It's so important to recognize that regardless of which program or faculty you may be interested in or you may be exploring, each and every program planning page is laid out and designed the same, and it has been designed to be used in the same way as it relates to choosing your first year courses. So if today in the presentation I don't happen to highlight one of your programs of choice, not to worry, the way in which I have walked you through it for another program is exactly the same way in which you will follow along and choose the courses for your program of choice. We do know, again, a lot of students are exploring and undecided. This is a great place for you to start, really to start taking a look at all of the different programs and faculties that are available to you as a University of Manitoba student. So you may not be entirely targeted at the moment. You may spend a lot of time going back and forth from this index page to really start sort of opening your eyes to all of the opportunity and all of the exploration that you will be able to do in your first year. For the purposes of this session today, I'm actually going to start with a program. It's Faculty of Social Work. I can find it here under the list of faculties. I can also find it listed alphabetically here under the programs. Either way, whichever one I happen to click on, it's going to take me directly to that dedicated program planning page. Keep in mind that anything bolded and or underlined in the guide is interactive, so it's going to take you directly to that spot in the guide or to a web page that we've vetted and definitely provides you with the most up-to-date information. So this has brought us here to the Faculty of Social Work. This particular program page, again, to do a brief review, is laid out exactly like all other program pages. So regardless of which program you've come to, you will first and foremost be presented with a link to a program overview website. So you want a little bit more information on what the social work program is like here at the U of M. Click on this link and then it's going to break down very broadly what social work is all about here at the U of M. This is a good place for you as an exploring or undecided student to do some exploration and research. Next up on every program page, you will find a first year courses chart. It details specifically what a full first year in this degree program entails. So you'll see a full 30 credit hours, that maximum course load. Every page will include a gray admission box. It will detail specifically what the admission requirements are for that program. It will become very clear to you throughout this presentation that not all programs require that you do a full first year to be eligible to apply to their program. So again, for those undecided and exploring students, that's really good news. Allows you to really continue to do that exploration and keep multiple doors open for applications after your first year. Then we do have a tips for choosing courses box on page 2. This box contains critical, such important information, really good guidance on which courses specifically I should be choosing for myself as a student possibly interested in this program. Then there's a high school prereq section, details if there are any 40S or grade 12 courses that are required. Then we have a how to apply, which links you to an admission page where you can really dive deep and get more information related to admission, especially as it comes time closer to putting in an application. We measure your expectations in terms of the amount of time it might take you to graduate or complete this degree, including the number of credit hours that this particular program is comprised of. And last but not least, we certainly do have a need more information section. We link you to the academic calendar where you can see the degree in its entirety, as well as to that faculty website. So we've really covered off all kinds of students and all kinds of needs within the guide, from, you know, exploring to undecided to someone who definitely wants to plan for their first year, and even further to sort of see what the entire degree looks like. So again, no need to go anywhere else other than to your program planning pages here in the guide. As it relates to planning and choosing our first year courses, there are going to be 3 sections that I'm going to use today and that you're going to use after the presentation when it comes time for you to use the program planning page to choose your first year courses. And those sections are the first year courses chart, the gray admission box, and the tips for choosing courses section. These 3 sections on every program planning page really work in conjunction with one another and provide you with the fullest and clearest picture of which courses are best for you to take in your first year. So again, I'm going to start walking through how I would be course planning as a student interested in social work. The steps that I'm going to walk you through right now will be the exact same steps that you would do whether you were interested in pharmacy, dentistry, any other course, or rather programs that you find here listed in the guide. So first section that we want to review first off and pay special attention to is the first year courses chart. As I said earlier, each and every program page will provide you with a box that contains line by line each individual course or courses that make up year 1 of this particular program. Typically, that's going to be 30 credit hours of courses. You will see if we look specifically at social work, in fact, although the total credit hour value is 30, there are only 3 entries listed here. There are 2 specific social work courses, Social Work 1310, Social Work 2080. They are fulfilling 3 credit hour requirements. And the remaining courses that make up year 1 of this program fall into something we call an elective category. For those of you that don't know, an elective really is any course that you choose across any program or faculty. So it's anything that you elect to take. So that can be a really exciting place for a student to be, but sometimes a daunting place as well. So not to worry, I will refer you to a resource that will help you to choose electives in the event that your program provides you with that kind of flexibility. Keeping in mind here, looks like these entries are bolded. So that's a good clue to me that if I were to click on this course, so in this instance, Social Work 2080, it's going to take me somewhere else. This happens to be the academic calendar, and that calendar entry is going to provide me with a really good description of what interpersonal communication skills is all about. It's a 3 credit hour course. I can't stress enough how important it is going to be for you to read over each and every course description, especially if you are a student who is exploring and undecided. You may very well be taking a look at a variety of different courses and really trying to find those that are the best fit for you. The course description is going to be your best place to try and identify that. One of the other reasons course descriptions are important is because they will often detail prerequisites. So some courses that you may encounter in your first year may have 1 of 2 prerequisites. 1, it may ask that you have taken a certain course in high school, so a grade 12 4DS course, to be eligible to take the course. Other courses may also ask that you have a certain university level course done in advance of completing another university level course. If we look at Social Work 2080 as an example, it actually details no prerequisite. So this is a course that you can take regardless of what you did in high school and regardless of whichever other courses you may be planning for in your first year. And that's important information when we start to think about when we might be planning for these courses, whether it be a fall or a winter term. So, the first year courses chart really would be best following the first year courses chart rather is best for a student who is absolutely certain that they would want social work and certain that they would like to do a full 30 credit hours. So you're a student that knows you want social work. You've thoughtfully identified that you have the capacity to do a maximum course load. Then you would course plan for each and every course that would be listed in your first year courses box. However, we know lots of students come to us undecided, exploring, or may want to do a reduced course load. And this is where the admission, the gray admission box comes in and is really important to make sure that you read in advance of choosing your courses. You will see here that admission to social work requires any 30 credit hours of coursework. So although social work is going to ask you to do 30 credit hours in advance of being eligible to apply, they are actually giving you the flexibility to choose any 30 credit hours to be eligible. So that's really good news for our exploring students, a student who may want to start taking a look at a variety of different program planning pages and start to combine courses together to get you to that credit hour value that you think is a good fit for you. In this instance, if you still wanted to be eligible for social work, you could combine courses from a variety of different programs, ensuring that you take 30 credit hours of those and still be eligible to apply to social work. It didn't necessarily need to include these 2 social work courses. So that's something that you're going to find across a variety of different programs. I'll show a few later on in the presentation. I probably would say to you, however, if you have any interest in social work, it is definitely in your best interest to take specific social work courses, or honestly specific courses for that faculty you may be interested in. That's really going to give you the best sense of what life might be like in that particular faculty. So again, as an exploring or undecided student, if you had any thought that social work might be something you may want to do, these would likely be good courses to give you a general sense or idea. Last but not least, remember we have to ensure that we are reviewing the tips for choosing courses box in advance of choosing our courses, because there might be some additional information that gives us guidance. You see here, as I read through, the written and the mathematics course requirements are addressed, and in fact it's told us that they are not required for admission. So that's great news for me as a student who does not love math. I will certainly not be including a math course in my first year. However, for those of you that love math, perhaps that might be a course that you may want to include. But again, keeping in mind that information regarding the written and the math course will always be identified or addressed on your individual program page. Next off, we see social work is providing us with some good advice when it comes time to choosing courses in this elective category. 24 credit hours of electives is quite a lot of electives. All programs have an amount of electives. Social work happens to have quite a few in its first year. So again, this is your time to really do a lot of exploration, choose things that you have of interest. But social work is also telling us, try to ensure that maybe when you are choosing those electives, that you choose courses that could enhance your learning and foundational knowledge in the field of social work, while also playing to the fact that you want to ensure that you stay that your grades stay academically strong, because certainly social work, like many programs, is a competitive faculty. However, what they are telling us here, which is of really great importance, is that choosing courses for this category must be done by visiting something called the recommended introductory course list. So I'm going to click on that in a moment, but I'm just going to round off the last point that is addressed in the tips for choosing courses. And that again speaks to anyone in the audience today who may have completed advanced placement or international baccalaureate coursework in high school and may be looking to transfer that over. If you are one of those students, click on this link. We take you to the University of Manitoba admissions website, where they provide you with specific information on how you apply to transfer that credit work over. Again, keeping in mind that you're reading the specifics, because social work certainly has some specific rules from, as it relates to that. So again, doing all of that research and front-end reading is really important. So back to our second tip, where it's providing us with some guidance on where we go to choose our courses in this elective category. If I click on the recommended introductory courses list, it's taking me here to the back of the guide. I'm here at page 162. This is going to be a place where you are going to spend a lot of time when it comes time to planning and choosing your first year courses. This guide, or rather list of courses contained within the guide, is your safest place as a first year student to choose courses. Each and every year we put this list together. Each faculty on campus sends us a list of courses, and we include those courses within the guide, categorized by the faculty that offers these courses. These courses are deemed by that faculty to be appropriate for you at the stage that you're at as a first year student, but also are the courses they believe give you the best idea of what it might be like to be in that particular faculty. You certainly don't have to be in the faculty of architecture to take these courses, nor the faculty of agriculture. Every course here is available to you as a first year student, as long as you have the prerequisite requirement. Again, being able to click on each individual course allows you to go directly to the academic calendar to read over the course description. I would say that if you are an exploring or undecided student, this may very well be the spot within the guide that you begin at. You may not have a specific program in choice. You may not need at this point to go to a program planning page. You may want to begin your first year by choosing a collection of courses that you have access to from a variety of different faculties. What we do find with some of our undecided students is that as we ask them to start moving through the recommended introductory course list, so you see as I flip through these pages, there, as I said earlier, about 200 plus courses that are available to you. If you start reading the course descriptions, writing those courses down that seem of interest to you or that you feel you have a skill set in, you may see a trend emerging, one where maybe you have been choosing courses from one particular faculty or program. If that's the case, then go back to the index page, identify that faculty or program, click on its program planning page, and start to work from there to sort of see what other courses might be included in year one or recommended to take in your first year. So again, the guide can be of benefit to you as both an exploring, an undecided, or an absolutely committed student to one particular program. So we've come here for the purposes of social work to choose our 24 credit hours of electives. If I go back to the beginning of the recommended introductory courses list, you will see that in fact we provided you with even more guidance related to the categories or the degree requirements that some of these courses may be fulfilling. You will see we have icons for any course that fulfills the written requirement. It will have a W beside it. Any course with an M beside it will fulfill the mathematics course. Again, keeping in mind for social work, we don't need to fulfill those in our first year if we choose not to. Some programs may ask you to choose courses that fall into additional categories, courses that are humanity-based, social science-based. Some non-science programs may still ask you to do science requirements, and we've identified some lighter science courses for you, these science interest courses. So again, lots of additional information beside each course to really help guide you to make those decisions that are best for you and your program of choice. So I would say you're probably going to spend hours here reading over the course descriptions. Again, keeping in mind that the way that I've gone about this is very quick. So this process is not going to be nearly as quick for you. Keeping in mind that 24 credit hours of electives means I can choose courses from any faculty that is listed here on the recommended introductory course list. I started to put together a bit of a list, and really the ways in which I've made the decisions about the courses that I'm taking to fulfill elective space would be the same advice that I would give to you. Read the course description. So here in this instance, as I was doing my research, I came across a course. It's a religion course, Eastern religions. When I read the course description, it was very interesting to me. It didn't have any prerequisites, so I was fine. I was totally eligible to take this course. It also told me that it had a W beside it. So it is a high writing course, so I have to be prepared to do a significant amount of writing in this course, but I feel that that plays to one of my strengths. I really like writing. I'm generally a strong writer, so I'm pretty excited to begin to take a course like this. So I'm going to include and add this to my course plan. So if I go back to my social work page, just as a reminder, so I'm actually going to get to it here from going through the contents, table of contents, just as a refresher. Here we are, first year courses box. I'm going to plan for a full 30 because I would like to be admissible to social work after my first year. I've got 2 courses already listed. I've already started to do some work in the recommended introductory courses list. So I'm ready to start writing these courses down and making decisions about when I'm going to take these courses, whether that be fall or winter term. Normally, I would be taking out pen and paper and doing this, but because we are doing this virtually together today, we have created a fillable course planning sheet. It's a PDF. I will have Robin include the link to this in the chat for you. Please go and grab that link, download it on your computer. You're going to need it for 2 reasons. Number one, I'm going to demonstrate how I would course plan today for a few different programs, including social work. You will be asked, or I will hope that you will do after this presentation, to use this course planning sheet to put your own course plan together for the upcoming fall and winter term. Secondly, you may find after putting your course plan together that you have questions, you'd like to review a few pieces with an advisor, myself, Robin, our whole team. We're absolutely able to meet with you, but we will require that in advance of a meeting, you do complete a course planning sheet. So we've asked you to include things like your name, your student number, and what program or programs you think you are course planning for. Again, keeping in mind that the guide is never far from sight, we've also linked to the guide here on the course planning sheet as well. So I'm going to start to fill in the 2 courses that I know specifically are listed in the first year courses chart, that being Social Work 1310 and Social Work 2080. Upon reading the course descriptions, there were no prerequisites, meaning I could do these courses in either fall or winter term. I decided to do Social Work 2080, the interpersonal skills course. It seemed most interesting to me, so I'm really excited to start that sooner than later. And then I'm going to balance that off by taking the other social work course in the winter. Could I do both of these in the fall or both in the winter or switch them around? Absolutely. Many decisions that you will make regarding which term you take courses in will be entirely up to you. Others will certainly be determined by prerequisites. So there's my 2 social work courses. If you remember, one of the courses that I was quite interested in on the recommended introductory courses list was a religion course, Religion 1322. So I'm going to write that down. Why am I doing this in the fall? Simply because, again, I feel like writing is my strength. I'm quite interested in this course, or I think I'm interested in the course based on the course description. So I'm going to course plan for that in the fall term. Probably recognizing that fall is going to be my more challenging term. Everything's going to be new, may take me a little while to adjust. So loading up courses that are of interest or may play to my strengths rather, may be one of the considerations that you also make, but again, entirely up to you. If I go back to my social work page and then click on my link to the intro course list, it brings me back here. I'm going to sort of walk you through a few other courses that I chose. Again, keeping in mind some of the recommendations that the tips for choosing courses gave me, to sort of think a little bit about courses that might really speak to some of the issues I might encounter in social work or as a social worker. So during my research, I came across some courses here in the Rady Faculty of Health Sciences, and they were some family social science courses. I read these over, and there was certainly a course that I was interested in. It was Family 1012, Introduction to Social Development. It was of interest to me, no prerequisites. So I'm going to go back to my course planning sheet. I could certainly take this in the fall, but I am going to decide to take this particular course in the winter term. So now you'll see I've course planned for 4 courses. 3, 6, 9, 12 credit hours. So, you know, I have 4 of a possible 10 courses that I would need to course plan to be eligible for social work. Another course that I found on the recommended introductory course list, again, keeping in mind that I'm choosing electives right now, courses that I really can choose. No real specific parameters other than, am I interested in it? Do I think I'm going to do well in it? The course that really caught my attention was a psychology course. This one, Psych 1200, happens to be a 6 credit hour course. I took psychology in high school. I was interested in it. So I think I'm going to give this course a go. I'm going to go back to my course planning sheet. And this is a great example of how I would begin to course plan for a 6 credit hour course. It's going to take a spot here in my course plan and eventually in my timetable at the same time in both the fall and winter term. We'll deal a little bit more specifically about that next week when we do timetabling. But again, you'll see here, now I have 3 courses in the fall, 3 courses in the winter. That's a total of 18 credit hours. I would be considered minimally a full-time student at this point, so I could stop here if I wanted to maintain eligibility as a full-time student. However, if I wanted to keep the door open and continue to plan for social work, then I certainly would begin to complete the remaining 4 courses using the support and guidance of the recommended introductory courses list. If I'm an exploring or a undecided student, again, let's go back to the beginning of the guide. Get my toolbar up here. Here we go. I'm going to flip through here. My toolbar is not cooperating with me, so I'm going to go back, open up another guide. It's hidden for me at the bottom. Here we are. I'm back at the guide. Here I am at my table of contents. I'm going to go back to my index page. You know, as I was looking at courses in the recommended introductory course list as an undecided student, many of the courses that I was of interest or had interest in actually were Faculty of Arts courses. So I'm kind of curious what an arts degree looks like. So I've come back to the index page here. I can find the list of faculties here. Here's the Faculty of Arts. I can click on it, and here it's going to take me to the dedicated Faculty of Arts page. Certainly the Faculty of Arts, just like the Faculty of Science, 2 of our larger faculties on campus are, you know, certainly well sought after and popular faculties. They both represent faculties that are quite flexible in that there are multiple different subjects that you can study within the Faculty of Arts. So it really is in many ways almost a build your own degree situation where you get to choose from a variety of different subjects or areas of study to really begin to build your arts degree. You will see we certainly do have this program planning page contains a lot of the same fields as we saw on social work. So again, there's a first year courses chart, there's a tips for choosing courses box. What you will find with the Faculty of Arts section is that it is quite large, and that simply speaks to the fact that there's so much option and variety. And much of what you will be doing is making decisions about what you would like to study within the Faculty of Arts. So if I'm a student who is totally sold that I want the Faculty of Arts, or again, I'm that undecided student who's doing a little bit of exploration, the way in which I would go about using this page would be identical. Again, reading over a lot of the specific information about the Faculty of Arts and the degrees offered, but coming back here to the first year courses chart. Again, the Faculty of Arts is going to detail for me year 1 makes up a full 30 credit hours. As I start to take a look line by line at each and every sort of course or requirement, you'll see that there aren't specific courses listed here. So unlike social work and some of the other program planning pages where there are specific courses detailed, the Faculty of Arts really is directing you and asking you to choose courses for your future areas of study. So first section here, as a potential art student, speaks to choose courses, 6 credit hours worth, in what you think may be your future major or your future primary area of study, your first subject. And to refer to something called the introductory course requirement table for specific details on all of the subjects that you have access to possibly consider as your future major. An arts degree also includes a minor, a second area of study. So again, choosing 6 credit hours of courses from a subject that you think at this time might be your future minor, so your second subject field. The 3 remaining fields here, so 6, 12, the remaining 18 credit hours that would make up year 1, fall into 3 additional categories, and those are courses in a 3rd, 4th, and 5th subject field. So again, not specific courses, but rather you go and choose courses from subjects that you have a genuine interest in studying. When you are choosing those courses, there certainly is some additional guidance, so ensure that when you're choosing these courses, they do fall into different categories, so humanity-based, social science, and science-based. Remember, from the recommended introductory courses list, we certainly had some icons to provide you guidance on how to choose courses to fall into those categories. But I think my biggest piece of advice as a prospective arts student is to, again, use this as guidance for sure, but do know that there is a lot of flexibility for you to do exploration in your first year. So certainly review the intro course requirements table. So I'm going to click on that now. It's going to take me to the middle section of the Faculty of Arts section of the guide. And here you will see listed alphabetically each and every subject that you have access to study within the Faculty of Arts. It is also pages long, and you will see if you choose a particular subject. So I might be interested in actually studying French in my arts degree. You will see the French section here indicates that the introductory course requirements, so the first 6 credit hours of courses in the French subject that I should be taking will be either French 1190, it's a 6 credit hour course, or French 1200, also a 6 credit hour course. So if French was possibly my future major, my future minor, or one of my subject fields, I could go back to my course planning sheet and put in my French 1200, knowing it, like psychology, is a 6 credit hour course. It's going to take a spot up in both my fall and winter term. And as far as fulfilling a requirement, for the purposes of my arts degree, I would be fulfilling possibly my future major. Maybe that's going to be the category for my future minor, or maybe it's simply one of my additional subject fields. If I continue to flow through the arts section, you will see there are specific guidelines and some guidance here related to how I go about choosing my subject fields, what are these humanities, social science, and science requirements, what kind of courses fall into those categories. You will see here that French happens to be a humanity-based course. So again, without even having known that, I made a choice that nicely fulfilled a requirement already for my arts degree. And again, remember, these are degree requirements. These are not required for admission. And I would learn that as I flowed through the arts section and found my way to the admission section. If I read over, and all of you definitely need to do this on all of your program pages, reading over the tips for choosing courses, it's telling me that I can certainly choose my subject fields from the intro course requirements, especially my major and minor, because those certainly need to come from the Faculty of Arts. My additional subject fields, however, I could do a little bit of exploration. Perhaps I want to take a subject outside of the Faculty of Arts, and that's fine. I can certainly do that. I would then go back to our recommended introductory courses list and begin to explore courses that fall outside the Faculty of Arts. Again, I can find guidance there also about my math and written requirement, knowing that these are not required to be completed in my first year. So again, if I want to include them, absolutely, they are a degree requirement for all degrees, but I don't necessarily need to go out of my way and include them, especially if I'm not interested or excited about doing a writing and or math course in my first year. So again, that would sort of be how I might go about choosing courses related to my arts degree, knowing again, a lot of decisions are in my hands, a couple of different resources, both in intro course requirements, as well as the recommended introductory course list to really guide and direct me to courses that are safe and perfectly appropriate for me as a first-year student. If I'm to take a look at one final program just before we open up the chat, I'm going to go back to my index page. Again, being a student who did some exploration, I actually came across a faculty that was of interest to me. It was actually the Faculty of Kinesiology, but there was a degree there, a physical education degree. I found this doing my research. I clicked on physical education. Here I brought again back to a program planning page. This looks very familiar, just like social work, also very similar to arts. I'm presented here with a first year courses chart, now for physical education, an admission box, as well as a tips for choosing courses box. I discovered actually this particular program when I was on the recommended introductory courses list. I found a couple of CAPER courses, kinesiology, physical education, and recreation courses when I was doing my exploration, and those led me all the way back to here, which is the Faculty of Kinesiology and Rec Management. Now I've come here to sort of see what does year one of this particular program look like? Are there some additional pieces of information I should know if I'm interested in keeping the door open to admission for this program? I look at that here in the admission box as well as the tips for choosing courses box. What I find with physical education is, again, it's detailed. So again, you'll see a little bit different than social work, very different than arts, specific courses listed. Again, there is some electives, but only 9 credit hours, not 24. The admission box indicates here that all of the courses listed in the chart are actually required in the degree, as they all are, but are not required for admission. Admission to physical education does require 24 credit hours, and within those 24 credit hours, I must include these 3 courses: anatomy, physiology, and CAPER 1500. So as an exploring student, this is also a program where I could, again, mix and match courses across a variety of programs, making sure that I meet a minimum threshold of 24 credit hours, and definitely include these 3 courses in my course plan. One of the reasons why I wanted to bring you to this chart as well is just to highlight particular courses here, the anatomy and the physiology, which are required for admission. The reason why I wanted to highlight them is because they are excellent examples of courses. So again, I'm going to click on the course that have specific prerequisites. So again, we've not sort of seen an example of that yet today in the presentation. So I clicked on physiology of the human body, one of the courses required for admission to physical education. As I read this course description, you will see here closer to the bottom, I do come to a prerequisite section, and it's telling me that the prerequisite for Biology 1412 is actually Biology 1410. If I remember, that particular course was also a course required for admission and was included in year 1 of the program. So that's a great clue to me that I must actually course plan and take Biology 1410, which actually has no high school prerequisites, before I'm eligible to do Biology 1412. So if I'm to go back finally to my course plan, I could certainly slot in my Biology 1410 here in my fall term. It is a course that includes a lab, and follow that up with my Biology 1412 in the winter term, knowing that I have nicely course planned in a correct sequence, fulfilling the prerequisite requirement by taking Biology 1410 in the fall and Biology 1412 in the winter. If I wanted in my social work plan to maintain eligibility to apply to physical education at the end of the year, then maybe I might take one of my courses out. Maybe I'm going to take out my religion course here and remove and replace that with the CAPER 1500 course that, if you remember, was required for admission here in physical education. So you'll see that I've done some course planning across arts, social work, and physical education. I've kept the door open to all 3 of those programs, really allowed myself to do a lot of exploration and give myself the time to really identify what is the best fit and direction for me to go. So before I get Robin to open up the chat, I'm going to assign you a little bit of homework. I remember earlier I had mentioned that this course planning sheet was going to be important for you to download. So please go and download it if you haven't already from the chat. You will now, after I've walked you through this process, take the next several days to review the guide in the way that I have done, identify your area or areas of interest or your courses of interest, and begin to put together your own fall and winter course plan. It's really important that you're going to course plan for both fall and winter, because as of July 14th, when new students begin to register, you will be registering for both fall and winter term. Putting together this course plan in advance of the session that you'll attend next week will also be important, because I will walk you through how to go and course plan, how to go and timetable, create your customized timetable for this course plan that I, as well as yourself, have put together, and then ultimately how you would be able to register for those courses. So I think I'm going to get Robin to open up the chat. I'm going to just put one final slide up on the screen for all of you. We do know that you will certainly possibly have questions as you move through and put together this course plan for yourself. We are available to you via email at fycenter@umanitoba.ca. Remember, keep in mind that in fact, we do want you to complete this course plan, put in your best effort to put together that course plan that's good for you in advance of meeting with an advisor, but we certainly are able to talk to you and answer any specific questions that you might have. So hopefully some of those questions can be answered now. Robin has certainly opened the chat. She has shared our Instagram handle. It's at First Year Center. So please go and follow us. We will certainly be providing you with some information throughout the year, so it's a good account to follow. So what sort of questions do we have here, Robin?
We've got one so far. It says, could you provide the link to access my Aurora account?
Okay, so I guess to Bailey, I think that's Bailey's question.
Yeah.
Bailey, it's really important first and foremost that you want to go and review the guide and put your course plan together first. Going into Aurora in advance of putting your course plan together is honestly going to probably provide you with a lot of confusion and not clarity. You want to choose your courses from your program planning page or from the recommended introductory course list. After you have a completed course plan, then you can begin to put your timetable together, and that is when you would go and access Aurora. You can certainly access Aurora through the First Year Planning Guide. So on the timetable and registration pages, we have linked you directly to Aurora, so you can certainly go and do that. But again, you have to have accepted your offer, claim your UMNet ID, put your course plan together, then dive into Aurora and begin to take a look at when the courses that you have planned for are being offered. So that's a little bit down the way. I'll be showing you how to do that next week. But I would say that that would be the sequence in which you want to follow this process.
We've got another question. This is a question that says, for mature students with 30 credit hours or social work diploma, where do I find which courses I received credits for and don't need to take again?
So I guess, I mean, that's probably a pretty specific question.
Yeah.
I would probably need to know, like, are you a student who took courses at another institution? There's probably a few questions that an advisor may need to ask you. So my recommendation to you would be to email the FY Center, include your student number, because again, if you are a student who attended the university previously, you would have a student number. If you are a student who attended another institution, if you've already accepted your offer, try and include your student number with that as well, and just include the nature of your question, and that will be forwarded along to an advisor, and they'll be able to have a more specific conversation with you about that.
I've got a two-part question now.
Sure.
It says, if I choose a degree in arts, can I take the 4th and 5th subject field courses in the summer, and will it still be considered a full-time course load?
Yeah, you know what, that's a good question. I didn't really address specifically admission to the Faculty of Arts. Some of you in the audience may have already applied and have gone directly into the Faculty of Arts. You're not going to be applying to arts. So you're going to course plan for your first year, depending upon the number of courses that you want to take. Probably most of you, as most of our first year students are, you come into university through University One. So you will be moving into the Faculty of Arts at some point. You as a University One student have what we call an automatic admission to both the Faculty of Arts and the Faculty of Science upon completion of any 24 credit hours of coursework. So if you were to have completed 24 credit hours this upcoming fall and winter term, you would be eligible to, we call it a transit actually, because you're not really technically applying. It's like an automatic admission to arts or science. You would transit into arts with those courses that you've taken. And if you wanted to top up your coursework, you could certainly take those additional 6 credit hours in the summer. So then the following fall, you're starting like sort of officially on your next set of 30 credit hours for year 2. What's important to know is really the specifics of your program. Arts is, certainly unique in terms of, as a U1 student, not needing an application. You certainly want to know the coursework deadlines for your program. Social work, again, is a great example. So if you were a prospective social work student and you were doing 4 courses in the fall and 4 courses in the winter, with hopes of picking up those remaining 6 to get you to that 30 credit hours that you need to apply, you are not able to use summer to pick those courses up. Social work, like many programs, does have a cutoff at the end of winter where you would need to fulfill all admission requirements by the end of winter term. So that's, again, addressed in the how to apply section on the first year planning guide pages, but also would be, a really good question to ask an advisor as well, just to make sure that you're course planning to meet your intended goals.
Back on the course load question or topic, we have a student, looks like he's bound for engineering.
Okay.
So I've heard that you need 36 credit hours instead of 30 in a year for engineering in order to complete that degree in 4 years. And also, can I get a reminder of when registration opens?
Okay. So yeah, engineering, Arden, is a little bit unusual in that they certainly, their year, like what we call their preliminary year, their first year, is actually comprised of 36 credit hours or 12 courses. So if you were to go to the engineering page and see the first year courses chart today in the guide, you would see that there is a list of 12 courses. You are only able to actually take those full 12 courses or full 36 credit hours if you are a student who has gone directly into engineering. And even if you were that kind of student, I also probably would not be providing you advice to take that many credit hours in your first year either. And I'm sure Robin is going to mimic that advice as well. Certainly probably not setting yourself up for success, especially in what are very rigorous courses. If you wanted to do the full 30, you certainly could do that in year 1 if you felt like you were going to be successful with those courses. And then you could use a summer term to pick up the remaining courses. Again, keep in mind, and you would learn this if you went to the engineering page, engineering only needs you to have 24 credit hours or 8 courses to be eligible to apply. I really would say my biggest piece of advice to students, especially in their first year, is don't be in a rush. I know you want to probably finish your degrees in as short amount of time as possible and get out there and start using your degree in a professional capacity. But what you want to really think about is quality. You want to set yourself up in your first year to be able to bring the grades that you need, especially for something like engineering that is very competitive. And if you're maxing yourself out both in school and out of school, certainly your grades will ultimately suffer. So, try and think about not the speed at which you complete the degree, but the success at which you get into that degree program.
Yeah. Now, just the second part, I guess, of that question is, it is true, engineering does have more courses in it. That degree has more courses than most of our other degrees. So if you did want to finish it in 4 years, you would be doing more than 30 credit hours per year.
Yeah.
But that's something unique to engineering.
Very unique.
And for registration dates, new students get to register between July 14th and the 20th.
Mhm.
You'll each be assigned a very specific date and time. Liza's going to go through that in the Zoom sessions next week on how to find out what your specific day and time is.
Yeah.
It's good to find that time because you want to be registering right on that day and time.
Yes, that is going to be your first access to space in those courses, which do typically fill up. So again, attend the session next week and I'll certainly walk you through how you go about that. Or again, refer to those pages in the guide. There's a create your timetable and register for classes section where we certainly do detail all of that information there for you as well.
Becky has a question about, is this process the same if you do your whole degree by distance? Not always possible.
No, in very rare instances is it possible to complete your degree by distance. Certainly social work does have a distance program, that's for sure. Arts, there are a couple of areas that you can, a couple of subjects that you can complete via distance, but really it's, for some courses you can do distance, but at some point you will eventually have to complete your degree by attending in-person lectures. Not sure if that was exactly the question you had or the answer that you were looking for necessarily. You know, this year certainly is unique. I mean, this to all of us working virtually, finishing up high school virtually, you know, and attending at least for the time being fall term for the most part will also be online. You know, the online component, and I will address this next week as well, you know, you really want to even though you will be doing these courses online, there still are going to be regular meeting times virtually. There still will be dates and deadlines to adhere to. So although you won't be physically coming and congregating on campus, your, you know, the expectations of when you log on, when you sort of view your classes will be very similar to the way in which it would be if you were coming on to campus in person. And so the way you also accommodate those courses in your timetable will be the same as well. So again, I'll deal more specifically with that next week. So definitely attend one of the sessions next week and I'll go into more detail with that.
Janie's got a really interesting question.
Sure.
Can I take more courses in the fall and less in the winter as long as it's a total of 18 credit hours?
Yeah, I mean, you certainly can. You know, you want to be, if you want to be a full-time student, you have to have completed 18 credit hours of coursework. But again, you know, you want to ensure that, like, it just really depends on what your, like, why you're wanting to complete 18 credit hours. So, because sometimes there is the requirement to ensure that you have a minimum of 3 courses in the fall and a minimum of 3 courses in the winter. So when I talked earlier about being a full-time student, it was related not only to the total number of credit hours, but also having a certain course load in fall and winter term. So again, needing to know the specifics of why you need to complete 18 credit hours would also help us to answer that question. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Robin.
Just to reinforce what you said. So when the university makes the declaration you're full-time or you're part-time, they're going to look each term separately. So you'll need to have 9 credit hours in the fall to be considered a full-time student in the fall, and another 9 in the winter to be full-time in the winter. That being said, you may have a scholarship or an award or some other external factor that says as long as you're in 18 credit hours, we don't care how it's distributed.
Right.
So that's, you know, that extra information that Liza was talking about. But in terms of the university's designation, it's per term. It's per term.
Yeah. If you're accepted into the Faculty of Arts, do you need the 30 credit hours? Well, I mean, if I understand, Otto, what your question is, like, if in order to transit into the Faculty of Arts, if you're a student sitting in University 1 right now and you're going to be completing coursework this year and you'd like to move into the Faculty of Arts next year, then you certainly need a minimum of 24 credit hours to do that. You know, keep in mind that, you know, you can certainly pick up the remaining coursework to get you to 30 at some point along the way. You know, all of our sort of timelines that we talk about are based on this notion that you would be taking 30 credit hours each year. And we know that lots and lots of students don't do that. So when people say, you know, I have a 4-year degree. That's just based on the premise that you've done 30 credit hours each year. So 30 plus 30 plus 30 plus 30 gets you to that typical 120 credit hours that many degrees are made up of. So, you know, that's the way that I've interpreted Otto's question. I don't know, Robin, if you see it slightly differently.
Nope, I interpreted that the same way. Yep.
Okay. And again, Otto, if you have, you know, more specific questions, feel free to email fycenter@umanitoba.ca, and we'll try and address it if that isn't really the question that you were answering.
We had a follow-up from Becky, just clarifying she is doing the distance social work.
Okay,
program.
yeah. So
Yep.
Becky, you're in a very different, very unique situation. So connect with your distance social work advisor, follow their advice, because that is a very unique program to probably many of the ones that we're talking about today.
Yeah. And then one final question about the faculty fairs that are coming up. Just wondering if the School of Art is going to go in depth about registration at the faculty fair, or if it's going to be different in nature.
You know what? That's a good question. I don't honestly have the answer to that. I'm not sure exactly what the School of Art will be reviewing. You know, keep in mind that the faculty fair is really targeted to both kinds of students, those who may have already been admitted into their program of choice, but also for those students who are exploring, who are undecided, who may be, you know, looking to eventually apply to that program. So, you know, if you are a student who has already been admitted to the School of Art, then I would reach out to the contact information that you've received in your package. And if not, I would encourage you to come to the faculty fair, because you certainly will have the ability to ask questions at that time.
And I think that's all of our questions, Liza.
Perfect. Again, you know, once you dive into this process, like everything, you often come up with questions after you've, you know, you have more information. And so that's why Robin, myself, and our team are here and available to you again at FYCenter@umanitoba.ca. Here's what our lovely campus looks like under normal circumstances. Eventually, one day, we will all see you there, but for the time being, we're happy to support you virtually. I hope to see all of you next week for the final Get Ready to Register sessions. I think on behalf of Robin and I, we certainly want to thank you for taking time this afternoon. I hope you found it of value, and we really look forward to working with you this upcoming year. So again, don't forget about us after you've registered for classes. Lots and lots of questions arise throughout your first year, and that's really what the First Year Center is here for, to support you. So thank you so much again, and we really hope to see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.